we'll start with our next technical session on PMFME guidelines. See, we welcome you, ma'am. The session is over to you.
In this session, we will be knowing further about the PMFME scheme, under which Jaggery is one of the one district one product. So moving ahead, under this scheme, PMFME, so the scheme operates at certain objectives, starting from providing increased access to credit to existing beneficiaries. So the scheme has identified beneficiaries as existing micro enterprises, then new enterprises, various types of groups like farmers, producers, organizations, self-help groups, or cooperatives. So these are the various beneficiaries to whom this scheme aims at providing the increased access to the loans. Then increased access for the enterprises, all these enterprises, to professional and technical support in terms of hand-holding support and providing further assistance on how they can proceed further in their ongoing businesses through capacity building and training. Then strengthening of institutions which are already identified under this scheme as state-level technical institutes and the research and training institutes in the food processing sector. Then providing access to the various processing lines and common services like common processing facilities and further various areas like laboratory, storage, packaging, all these as common incubation centers and common processing lines. And so far 64 incubation centers have been approved under this scheme across the country, which can be provided access to the all the beneficiaries. Then comes the support for transition of existing, this is the target of the scheme, to provide the support to 2 lakh enterprises into a formal framework. The features of the scheme involve, as we were discussing, that 2 lakh micro food processing units to receive a direct support in terms of credit linkage and credit support, and further remaining micro food processing enterprises for training and hand-holding support. State-wise earmarking of the outlay has been given under this, in which 50% will be from the Government of India and remaining from the state. The support is extensively to FPOs and SNGs and cooperatives. So the scheme has an outlay of 10,000 crore rupees for a period of 5 years, starting from previous year. Right now, more than an year has passed since the inception of the scheme. So the benefits of the scheme will involve upgrading the already existing micro enterprises, and the already existing micro enterprises will have the credit linked subsidy up to 35%, up to maximum of rupees 10 lakhs. Then further upgradation of existing micro units will be there. Then seed capital support to self-help groups up to rupees 40,000 as working capital to the self-help group members. Then support for farmers, producers, organizations and cooperatives as credit-linked capital investment grant, that are also at the rate of 35%. And the establishment of common incubation centers across India, that is being supported under this scheme. For government establishment, 100% support, and for private establishment, 50% support is provided under this scheme. This particular scheme follows ODOP approach, that is one district has, each and every one district has been provided with one product, is approved at central level. And these ODOPs are then divided into various subdomains. So these consists of various agricultural produce like peach, apricot, all these fruit products, vegetable products, even the processed products of various like grains like papad, bhujia, pickle, and then traditional Indian products are also part of these ODOPs. Then various fisheries products, poultry products, all these meats and all these things are, then minor forest produce are also being added under these ODOP list. So they can have one or more ODOP cluster in a district, and then the cluster can be extended to the adjacent districts. So the cluster based approach is very important, as the units get very good, what we can say, benefit of raw material supplies and everything. So it tries to build up and strengthen that particular cluster in the districts. So the pattern of assistance involves strengthening the supply chain, and the credit-linked capital subsidy has been provided at 35%. Then there is another marketing and branding support also, under which 50% grant of the project cost are being provided. And for this, the units or the state agencies can apply directly to the state nodal agencies, and they can come to them. So this is the administrative architecture of this particular scheme implementation. Starting from the national level, we have an interministerial empowered committee that takes care of all the final decisions and guidelines and all those things. And then we have state level committee, which is approval committee, SLAC, which has been chaired by Chief Secretary, and the sanction of the project expenditure is up to 10 lakh rupees for this. Then under the state level, we further have district level committees that will be taking care of the all the beneficiary applications and district level activities, then monitoring of these activities with the district nodal officers and everybody. So these are the district level administration, which is helping in smooth execution of the scheme. And all the applications for loan and subsidy are channelized to this administrative architecture, the recommended applications. So like the applications are invited in online mode for existing enterprises and new enterprises. And for groups, it has to be submitted in the offline mode. So this I was talking about. For individual units like already existing or new units, the applicant can apply on the portal. You can go to ministry website also, wherein MOPI website you can see top right side, they are inviting applications under the PMFME scheme. So there is a specific MIS portal for the same, and you can go through it and you can apply under the same. For the groups and various, so for all the three groups, SHGs, FPOs and cooperatives, the application is to be applied in the form of offline mode, and the details like how to prepare DPR, how to prepare, for example, what are the documents to be submitted, and all these things are being provided at the website itself. You can check at the box wherein I'll show that portal also to you. So for groups, it is offline. Then again, for incubation centers, online application is there. Those institutes, technical institutes who want to apply as providing the support to the entrepreneurs as common processing lines, so they can apply online also on the portal. So starting with the capacity building support under this scheme. So it has got saving features like the entire capacity building component is being divided into two parts. One is product specific, another is entrepreneurship development specific training. So product specific involves providing the knowledge specific inputs on machinery, costing, sourcing, food handling, all these things. And all these knowledge and inputs are being divided into various subdomains of the food sector. The entrepreneurship development component deals with various basic ideas and how to generate business opportunities, process of it, how to prepare DPR, how to understand it, and various components it. Then various formalities that are there, types of organizations, how to set up an organization, benefits, and all these things. Then developing basic skills on management, finance, like being aware about how to do all these things. Further, on the hygiene, food, FSSAI standards, regulations, and registrations, all these things. Generally, more of the trainings are in the online mode, and as feasible, the states also conduct the offline mode trainings as well. The training materials are already being prepared and being uploaded on the websites of ministry as well as our institute. So you can check that also on PMFME portal. So the capacity building training is being provided to various stakeholders of this scheme, starting from the key beneficiaries, that is the individual micro food processing entrepreneurs. Then there are existing entrepreneurs who will not be so the one are who are taking the grant under the scheme, and the other group is who are not interested in taking the grant. They just want to have the clarity on processing and further areas, so they can have also. They are also being provided the trainings under this scheme. Then there are the workers of microfood processing enterprises, then members of various groups, cooperatives already engaged in such food processing subsector activities. Then there are government officials and various people engaged in implementation of the scheme, and they are also being provided the training under for basic awareness and how to engage and smooth execution of the scheme. And then other resource person officials who are involved in this scheme in various levels. So the subdomains that I was talking about are these 8 subdomains, that is fruits and vegetables, starting from that, milk and milk products, then fish and marine, bakery, then spices, fat, grain, and minor forest produce. So at the national level, the trainings are being provided to the master trainers by the national level, identified national level research institutes, and these trainers have the responsibility to further train the people at state level. So already we can say minimum 2 phases of all the trainings almost have been completed in all the domains, and for fruit and vegetable even more than that we have completed. So this is the levels of training that you can see under this capacity building component of the scheme. The national level apex institutes that are identified, they have trained the master trainers in the online mode. These are the 5-day training programs, and then once qualified, they will be having the responsibility of training the trainers at the state level. So these actually master trainers are being nominated by the state nodal agencies, and they are generally people who represent various state level institutes and various organizations at state level who have partnered in this scheme. So these are the master trainers, and then they train the specific group of people who are going to be working at the district level. So now at district level, the state nodal agency has to identify various people who can further provide the training to ultimate beneficiaries. So training of trainers is being provided on the ODOP, approved ODOP for that particular district. So, so for example, like we have Tanjavur district in Tamil Nadu. So the district level trainers of Tanjavur district will be trained on the ODOP, that is coconut. So will be trained on the coconut products. So like this, the training has been provided. The trainings generally happen online or offline mode depending on the feasibility and state guidelines. So now once these DLTs are qualified, the assessment is being conducted by FSSAI, that is the nodal agency for conducting the assessment in food subsector. So it's a sector skill council. So the trainings, the assessment is being conducted by them. Once qualified, these trainers will now have the responsibility of training to the beneficiaries. So now these beneficiaries are being trained in the physical mode, and these trainings are generally conducted at the local state department training institutes or NGOs or autonomous and private training institutes at whatever feasible places, and these are being taken care by the state level technical institutions and the state nodal agency. So now the second component that comprises of providing the incubation facilities to the beneficiaries or the entrepreneurs. So these common incubation facilities are being promoted for establishment for ODOP and allied products. Then these are meant to be utilized on commercial basis by the entrepreneurs, like generally on rental basis or any model that the institute, the host institute prefers. Then it will also function in providing the training to the beneficiaries. So as we were talking about providing the beneficiary training at various places, so these can also be one of the places where the trainings can be provided at the training rates. So these rates and all have been prescribed under the PMFME scheme guidelines. So these are the components based on ODOP on which the incubation centers will be established. So they will necessarily be having at least one processing line based on ODOP. So if an incubation center is there in Tanjavur, then it necessarily will be having one processing line on coconut. Then it may have 2 or 4 allied product lines based on the what we can say integration or the clusterization of the which product is more available or which product is more processed, which type of industry. Based on those analysis, 2 or 4 other product lines will be taken up by the institute, and all these lines will then be put up for the approval committee and everything. All the process will happen, and then finally it will be running on commercial basis for the enterprises. So it can be on the rental basis, it can be on the electricity charge basis, it can be on any model that will be finalized by the host institute. The application process, like if any of your institutes are wanting to apply under this thing, then they can have this. Even we have on the PMFME scheme portal also, we have a specific incubation center page wherein you can see all these details. The DPR has to be prepared, and then the host institution will be putting this up for the approval. So the details of processing lines and proposed locations and everything has to be provided, and the standard costs or referral costs kind of document have already been provided, which can use for specific processing lines if you want to have a look at what kind of equipments or minimum requirements are required in a particular processing line. Then recommendation of state level agencies are there, SLTI and SLAC. Then a feasibility report will be required. So the agencies have to be applying along with DPR to the state bodies. So after this, so these were the 2 major components. Now I will quickly go take you through the website as we were talking. So here, as you can see, if you are going to the Nifton Tanjavur website, then here you can see the PMFME scheme tab, wherein all the details of the scheme that I was talking about was there. So here you can see, so for example, starting from the training material, which is available for all the types of trainings. Then ODOP specific material. So these are the various domains under which the ODOPs have been classified, and you are dealing with, for example, right now we are talking about Jaggery. So under bakery and confectionery it will be coming. So these are the Jaggery powder, it is there. So this is one of the product that the material has been prepared. States often provide training in other products also. So they are being told to provide further details to us. So this is one of the products of the Jaggery powder. So that can be viewed here, all the PowerPoint presentation, demonstration video, packaging technology. So it is in the form of PPT. Then FSSAI regularity is required for the product. It is also in the form of PPT only. Then model DPR and course materials. So like I will show you one. So this is one video on Jaggery that is for processing of Jaggery in the form of video. Like this, other things are also available. For example, course material involves all the basic details. So all the basic requirement, like if you want to know the economics of the product and what is the production scenario in particular areas and what are the various other products that are being made. So all these things with the flow chart, everything is available on. So like this, for all the other products, it is available under various domains. So like this, you can go for fruit and vegetable also. So all these products are there. For each and every product, all the subcomponents are available for downloading, and this is freely accessible by anyone. No anything is required, just basic details to be filled up, that's it. So this is about the ODOP based training materials that are available here that you can see, and this was the incubation page I was talking about, wherein you will having all the guidelines and everything, and here you can submit your common incubation facility application. Further, what I was talking about was ministry website, that application is there for new. So here you can see at the ministry website inviting online application under PMFME scheme. So this is the portal basically wherein you will be applying. So you can apply individual application, and if you are looking for say group application applying, so here you can see offline application forms for groups. So here all the details are there, like if you are cooperative and you want to apply, then you can check the guidelines, instruction sheets, everything. Same way for farmer producer companies, for the self-help groups, and for common infrastructure. So all these details you can just have a look, and then accordingly list of supporting documents, everything, how to prepare DPR and all, then you can be ready, and this has to be submitted to the state nodal agency. So this is for the offline application, and this is for the online application code. So these are the links you can go through. Even you will Google also, then also you will be able to get to this. So I hope you would have gained enough information about PMFME scheme. Any questions anyone is having, they can quickly come up with one or two things, then we can so for marketing and branding, one question I can see commonly being asked. So for marketing and branding component in the guidelines, it's been mentioned that you can apply directly to the SNA. So it's in offline mode. So the basic details are to be provided, and you can contact the state nodal agencies. So on the website, you can check the list of state nodal agencies, and district nodal officers are there. So you can 50% grant is there for that, for the activities. So they might ask you about the credibility and till now what are the activities you have been doing and all those things. So you can definitely apply to the state agencies, that is a state nodal agency, as well as if you have any query in applying or something, then district nodal officer will also be helping you. So basically groups will be they will be self-help groups, farmer producers groups. So it is both actually. So private limited or these companies will come under individual enterprises, and if it is a group, farmers producers group or cooperative group, then it is coming under this. So when you are going to apply on the portal, there it will have you click on what type of company or what type of establishment it is there. There under the drop down, you will be definitely selecting that. So you will gain more clarity while once you will have a look at the form also. So moving ahead, I'll take you further to the one component of it, that is detailed project report. So under the same scheme, as you can see, we have provided detailed project, model detailed project reports for various products under ODOPs. So you can refer to that for, you can say as a model, you can check like what are the basic things that are available there. I'll take you through the basics of preparation of DPR, and it will help you understand if even if you are contacting any DRP, so for example, district resource persons are being empaneled under the scheme at state level, and they help you in preparing or say submitting the DPRs and submitting the applications. So at least you will be aware of what are the components and what is being involved under this specific detailed project report preparation. So basic elements of DPR The first one is explaining the problem or identify the customer. And so basically what we are talking about is if you are already having a business and you are planning to expand it. So again, it's not that all these components will not come for you. It will definitely be coming for you because you are now analyzing or identifying the problem for the upcoming solutions or the expansion of your project. So if you are going for expansion or a new business, then you definitely need to understand what the customer wants and what is the problem that are you going to solve. So some products might be sounding like, okay, this is innovative, I should go about it, but it's not necessarily that if the product is innovative, you should go about it. You should first understand, is that innovative product is solving any problem that customer is facing around you or the area where you are planning to. So that is the very first component that you need to understand and analyze. Once you are clear on, okay, fine, this is the convenience problem or this is the problem that my customer might be facing and I am ready with a solution for them, then what is the proposed solution that you are having? So is it the solution and whether it is unique for them? So see, solutions can be multiple for single product or single problem related to marketing, related to process. It can be multiple, but based on your location, based on your expertise, and third, most important, based on need of customer. Because ultimately, whatever solution you are coming up in the market, the customer is required to pay for it. He is not at all ready to pay for it, and if he finds that this is definitely the product which I will never pay for and this is not the value for product, then whatever you do it goes in vain. So the third and very most important part of analyzing the need for creation of a business or expansion of a business in particular area is to understand why the customer will be paying for that particular thing and should be readily available, should be readily paying for that solution. So once you have answered these three critical questions and you are ready with some solution and you know that there is a customer or a group of customers you have identified who will be paying for you, then you will be moving towards the key question that your DPR will be helping you in preparing. While preparing, you will be able to answer these questions. First thing is, where are you? So where are you doesn't mean about location. It means about your strengths, weaknesses, and what is the strength that you have with respect to the proposed solution. So for example, you are telling that you will be producing jaggery powder or liquid jaggery. So do you have the expertise, or maybe you might not be having, but do you have anybody who is having the expertise, or are you clear on from where you are going to get that expertise? And right now, where are you? So your key strengths. Second comes where you are going to go. So with this proposed solution, you might should have in mind that what are the key partnerships that will be required for this proposition. Then where you are going means in terms of growth also. So currently, if you are an existing business, so your current status of business and where you will be going with this proposition and how you propose to get there. So you might require some technology commercialization. If it is an innovative product, you might require to hire some skilled people to work for you on this technology. You might require to import some machineries. So how you are proposing to get there, the clear steps on how you are proposing. These are the three basic questions that will be answered while you will be preparing the DPR. And the DPR other focus is also to analyze the viability of a business proposal. So basically, it will ultimately show you what profits or say by what time profit generation will start. So definitely you will understand that whatever business proposal you are having, how much viability it is having and how much credibility is to take it further. So I would go about the basic components of the DPR which are must in your DPR, that is starting from the introduction. So introduction means about the product. So as I was showing you, it will involve basics about the product. It's so if it is a agricultural produce, then it's production data. If it is, for example, primary or secondary processed product, then what is the market of it? So basic about it. Then entrepreneurial management review fund, that is about you, what your team or proposed team and people on management should do have with you. Like for example, there can be one person from technical background, there can be some people from financial background, there may be, there may not be, not necessarily. So what is the key composition of your team? How strong is it, or how you are planning to take it ahead? Maybe right now you might not be having, but in future you should know. So here you will answer to those questions. You will go through the questions about the team, what we can say feasibility or team credibility. Once profiling of the team is done, then comes the market analysis. That is the key and the most important part. So the market analysis involves not only just checking on the internet about the market of your product, but actually going in the field and talking to already existing business. That is first. So I'll discuss in detail about the market analysis further, but here I'll give you in brief that market analysis just simply doesn't make you understand about just reading few things about the product. It really requires local market analysis and talking to people. The fourth part is technical analysis, on which today a lot of discussions happen. That is various processes that are feasible, then types of equipments that should be used, what are the key types of equipment that are being used across India, so all these things. Then finally, financial analysis. So before starting any DPR preparation, you should be clear in mind about what is the key assumptions you are going to make. So it can be like how much capacity should be there, prices, raw material prices. So all these you will be able to understand by going through the market survey. And then you need to understand the utilization of your capacity. So initially maybe you might have 6 months or 8 months of period wherein you will not be doing anything but only just channelizing things and looking for equipments and all those things that we can call implementation period. And after that, you can have the capacity utilization of say 60%, 70%. From there, you can start. So the utilization can start right from 60% to say 90%. Definitely, you will not be gaining 100% capacity utilization in the very initial phase. I would suggest it should not be less than even 50 or 40% also, because then you should check at reducing the capacity. Why to go for such a less capacity? It is wastage of resources. So all these assumptions are required to be made. Then this has come the market potential analysis. So you need to understand the total demand. So while we are talking about demand, generally people come up with global demand. So we are not talking about here global demand. First, the demand that affects you. So that can be local demand, that can be the state level demand also, and the demand of products which are complementing to your product. So not necessarily the Jaggery powder. It can be further the sugar products also, sugar-free products also. These are the products that can substitute your product. So you need to also understand the group of products that come along with, so the demand gets affected by such products as well. Then the product and the usage. So how this product is being used actually, you need to understand. It's not, you will think my job is to just finish preparing the powder and just sell it. No, you need to understand why the customer is buying. What is the use of it? Is it a therapeutic use? Is it simply replacing of the sugar? Why? What is the, that will help you understand placing in the market correctly. Understanding the customer. So customer is definitely segmented. We think that we will simply mass sell it, but that's not the case. Actually, the customer is very clearly segmented, and you need to understand who is the customer. Is it the one who is, say for example, who is very health conscious, or the person who is price conscious, or the person who is looking at the quality only? Who is the customer whom you are going to? You cannot simply have a product that can be sold to everybody. So understanding the customer is the key, and understanding the definitely purchasing power, and based on that you will be finalizing your pricing also. Then the key area is how you are going to sell it. So now, because online options are there, So there comes the place, like whether you will be selling simply to the shops and shop will have merchandise it for you, or you can have it convenience stores also, or it can be on the online platform. So for all the three, the packaging will change, the distribution line will change, the pricing will change. So the promotion strategies and the placing strategies will change your entire costing as well. So all these things had to be clear in mind about how you are going to place your product. These all comes before the investment that you are putting in, so that you have less risk. You can now calculate the risk. Then comes the technical analysis. I won't go much into technical analysis, as already the entire day you have been going through all these things. So basically I will just focus on, you need to understand which kind of process you are going forward, whether it will be batch process, semi-automation or automation, and will it be feasible for you, how it will be viable solution for you, and what impact it will have on the overall project cost. So every equipment comes with some costing, and there might be some equipments, whether batch or automation, they will stay the same. So you need to just have a clarity on how much is the difference between semi-automation and batch. So cost-wise, you need to be very clear on this. This is the area which I would like to focus on, so that you can understand the technical part of what you are going to be proposing. And then finally, so these are some of the equipments that are required for Jaggery powder. I have taken from the model API. You can check this. So this, on the basis of this, you can check your requirements and everything as per your locality and the area where you are operating, and the suppliers around you. Finally comes the financial analysis. So under the financial analysis, I won't go much in deep. I will just brief you about what basically it should have, must have. First one is the total project cost. It involves investment in building or basic minor civil works, but it never includes the land cost. That is always never, the land cost never comes in the project cost. That is expected out of the promoter to have already. Then the fixed assets further involve all the one-time costs, that is like machinery costs, then all the, say for example, some preliminary cost might be there, some FSSAI licensing will be required, some other product licenses you will be requiring. That will be definitely before the commercialization starts. So all these costs will also be part of your one-time project cost. Then comes the working capital. A lot of questions we keep getting about working capital. What is it? So I'll just briefly explain it to you. Working capital means the amount of money that is minimum required to keep your business running, in simple words. So that amount of money is generally being blocked into buying raw materials, buying packaging materials. Then you have material, unprocessed or unfinished material lying with you in the factory. Then you have finished goods that is storing at the storehouse or cold store or whatever place. So all these areas, you have materials being stored. These materials come with a cost. So when a promoter, he prepares a TPR at the initial stage, or he calculates what is the amount of money that I require for starting a business or expanding my business, generally they take care of only the one-time cost. They never think about the cost or the money that will be involved or blocked in the running of business. And that generally leads to the cash crunch or cash crunch failures. So you should put your inputs on, you should take inputs from people also. How much is the, so this depends on the production cycle basically. How much is your, say, production cycle or the shelf life of the product. So that will tell you about how much time it will stay at various places. Like very perishable, it may not stay at more than a day or two at your finished goods area. And if it is a very perishable, if it is a long-term product kind of a thing, sitting at your factory for say 6 months, 7 months, then definitely it will be costing you a good amount of inventory cost. So all these money is involved in running the business, and that will definitely be calculated, and that is called working capital. And certain amount of it, so for example 25 to 30% of it, is generally added in the project cost. Then you need to be clear about sources of finances. So how much you will be gaining from the loans, how much will be from your own money. All these sources should be clear at the initial stage only. Then cost of sales, cost of funds, profit and loss, balance sheets. So basically Profit and loss is very simple actually. It will simply reduce, we generally do it at homes daily. So all the incomes that we are getting, subtracting it from all the expenses. So these expenses will be all the variable costs that are there, like production cost, it will be marketing cost, selling cost, all the costs that are required in producing the product, and from starting from the raw material till the sales. What are the costs that are involved regularly, recurring costs? These will be the expenses. So total income means all the sales that you have received. Subtracting it by all the expenses, you will get net profit and loss. And then you can check the formats already available for various products. That will help you gain more clarity on what it is and how to calculate and everything. So this is the basic of financial analysis that is required in a DPR. So I hope you might have gained some clarity on preparation of DPR and why it is required, and it is must for an enterprise to have a DPR in place before starting or expanding his business. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an interactive session. So participants, now we'll be moving ahead with the next technical talk. For that, may I now invite Ms. Shubhaprada Nishtala ma'am, Director in Charge ITC S10 Mumbai. We welcome you, ma'am. The session is over to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here today. I was able to participate in some of the lectures that happened prior to mine. I think it was really fantastic lineup of speakers and a lot of detail that was shared today. All right, so after all the technical inputs on how processing should be, what are the key parameters that you can consider for better yield, for better quality that happened in the first half before lunch, the very, very important and interesting session now by Dikshit Madam on how you can go to market, what are the schemes available, how do you do your documentation for it. I am here to talk a little bit about the not so very interesting part, which is the regulation and the licensing that is required. As introduced, I lead the International Training Center of Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, which is a center that was jointly set up 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, by the Food Safety and Standards Authority under Ministry of Health and the Export Inspection Council under the Ministry of Commerce. And the main objective of this institute is to provide training, both theoretical as well as hands-on analytical training on testing methodologies at our center, which is based out of Mumbai. Jaggery is something which we've seen, and I think Dr. Ravindra also shared some metrics in terms of how the growth of jaggery and sugar consumption has been over the years. And the pandemic has pushed all of us to look at more healthier options. There is a renewed interest in Ayurveda. There is an entire interest at looking at going back to our traditional methods. And jaggery sits squarely in the middle of this because it is a part of many of our traditional recipes. Traditional wisdom tells us that jaggery offers numerous benefits. Let's not look at it only as a sweetening agent. There are reports that talk about the antioxidant properties of jaggery being far higher than that of many other well-known sources like tea or wine. So there has been a renewed interest in jaggery, and we've seen number of increased licensing requirements that have come in under FSSAI for this kind of products. So while 20 minutes is really not enough time for me to take you through all the detail of the FSSAI requirements, what I thought I would do is just walk you through the various considerations that must be kept in mind. And if any of you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. A lot of information for FSSAI is of course available through their website. All the regulations are available. My intent today is just to guide you through how we approach it, how we look at it with the perspective of Jaggery and Jaggery value-added products. That is the core topic of interest today. So, as all of you know, that FSSAI came into being through the Food Safety and Standards Act of 2006, the act which repealed the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act, which we had since 1954. PFA was something which had a lot of components which were taken in from the British standards prior to independence. And it is only in the FSS Act that we have seen approach towards science-based standard making and risk-based regulation making. The authority itself started publishing their first regulations in 2011. One of the first regulations that was published was the licensing and registration regulation. And subsequently, there are very many more regulations that the authority continues to publish, which are to be implemented by the food businesses. In terms of the eligibility, as manufacturers, retailers, transporters, distributors, anybody handling food, the Act mandates that any entity which is in the food ecosystem, whether for profit or not, shall be licensed or registered. The categories of licensing can broadly be spoken about as registration, which is a simple registration of those entities which have less than 12 lakhs turnover per annum, or a production capacity of 100 kgs or less per day. Either of the two. If your turnover is less than 12 lakhs but your capacity is greater than 100 kg per day, you would still go into licensing category. But if you're meeting both of these requirements, then the applicable consent to operate from FSSAI would be termed as a registration. Registration is a fairly simple process. I have one slide which discusses the methodology of obtaining a registration. It isn't expensive. It costs about 100 rupees a year. All you need to submit is your Aadhaar card or some proof of identity and a commitment. If you can see the compliances against the registration, your commitment is to meet good manufacturing practices as are defined by the authority. What do I mean by good manufacturing practices? For the registration category, which is those who are the petty food business operators as they are termed in the regulation, the Schedule 4, Part 1 of the licensing and registration regulation applies. These are very simple requirements which refer to ensuring personal hygiene, use of potable water, ensuring that the waste is well managed, that all due care is taken to ensure that there is no cross contamination from other sources in the manufacturing or handling the product. The Schedule 4, Part 1 is what is applicable to the registration category. In addition to that, registration category businesses, of course, would and could pack their products. If the products are packaged, then the labeling regulation and the advertisement and claims regulation both come into play. Labeling regulation has requirements in terms of the minimum information that must be shared with the consumer on your pack. Again, that in itself is a fairly long topic. If you have specific questions regarding labeling, I'm happy to answer them. But suffice to say, the regulation is extremely clear. It talks about requirements such as the veg, non-veg logo, the list of ingredients. If it's a compound product, single ingredient products would not need it. The nutritional profile, the manufacturing address, the consumer care information, of course, the net weight, the use by date, The new regulation does not talk about best before date. Best before date has been made voluntary. The regulation now talks about mandatorily having an expiry date or a use by date. The date for compliance to this regulation is 1st July 2022, and fairly straightforward in terms of what is required when you look at the regulation from FSSAI's website. Claims is an interesting regulation again, and more so for those of you who are into value added products. One would need to look at the claims regulation for natural products, and now with the entire interest in better health, we see a lot of products which talk about benefiting immunity or high in iron or a good source of vitamins or minerals. The regulation has a specific use, specific conditions which must be met if you are to make claims of healthy, natural, high source for any of the products there are, including a single ingredient product like Jaggery. So, if you are making any such claims on your pack, then please ensure that you do it in accordance with the regulation on advertisements and claims, which is on the FSSAI website. So, to look at any regulation, you go to fssai.gov.in, go to the regulations section on the website, and please download the compendium. The regulation section will have the original regulation as was gazetted, and it will also have a compendium. The compendium is the updated regulation which includes any of the advisories or orders that the authority has subsequently added after the gazetting of the regulation. So, as food business operators, our go-to point for any regulation is looking at the compendium. Okay? So, to access any regulation, you go to fssai.gov.in, go to regulations, and download the compendium of the regulation that you are looking at. If you want to look at Schedule 4, Part 1, if you are under registration category, or if you want to look at Schedule 4, Part 2, if you are in the licensing category, you would go to the licensing and registration regulation. If you want to look at the labeling, you go to the labeling and display regulation of 2020, advertisement and claims regulation of 2018, and whether registration or licensing category, all businesses need to ensure that the product standards in terms of ash, in terms of total inward sugar, in terms of moisture for the non-liquid Jaggery products are compliant. I know that NIFTEM Tanjavur has brought out a very nice handbook for Jaggery processing, and that handbook includes these product standards. But to look at it directly in the regulation, you go to the regulation on food product standards, food product and additive standard, which is the second standard in the list of regulations, and that will give you what are the product specifications, the minimum quality and safety requirements in your product. As a registered business, so if you are a business which is operating under a registration, that is, you are less than 12 lakhs annual turnover and less than 100 kg production capacity per day. Mind you, it is capacity, it is not actual production, it is your capacity. Then you need to comply with the product standards. The authority does not mandate that you test these and validate or verify or keep on record. That additional compliance requirement is applicable for the license holders. So, moving on to the licensing category. The licensing category itself has two types. One is a state license and the other is a central license. A state license is for those which have greater than 100 kg but less than 2 metric tons production capacity per day, and a turnover that lies between 12 lakhs to 20 crores per annum. The central license is for all businesses which are greater than that in capacity or turnover, and additionally for those who manufacture proprietary foods. So, if you are a 100% export oriented unit, if you are manufacturing value added jaggery, which means your jaggery is not the jaggery as for which product standards have been defined in FSSAI, if you are importing any jaggery based products, for any of these three categories, you would mandatorily need to have a central license. Additionally, if you are as a unit providing your product, either jaggery cubes or jaggery powder, to any of the central government agencies, the airports, the seaports, the railways, the defense services, then there is, and you are less than 12 lakhs turnover, you will need to go for a central registration. So there is a category of central registration which is applicable to those businesses which have which are providing their product to the central government agencies. You would need to take a license under that. Now, where do you take your license? Who do you approach for your registration or license? There is a website called FOSCOS, FOSCOS, foscos.gov.in, foscos.fssai.gov.in, which is a single window portal for all registration and licensing activities. There is no longer a system in place for paper-based registration or physical registration or licensing to take place. All registration and licensing needs to happen through the FOSCOS portal. It's a very, very simple portal. It's a portal which has been developed with a good amount of intelligence. It will ask you questions and it will lead you to the correct category of licensing that you need to go for, and it will tell you what are the documents needed. So if you are yet to obtain a registration or a license, please go to the FOSCOS portal. It's an extremely simple portal. It will lead you step by step with the activities that are needed. For a registration category, there is no test reports or anything that are required. For licensing, there are some. We'll look at it in the next slide. But the portal itself is extremely easy to use. The license is, you can make a payment through the portal online, and the license is also generated in the portal and you can download it from there. Now, the licensing category of businesses have additional compliances. In addition to what we saw for registration, of course, product standards have to be met. Label regulation and claims in accordance with the advertisement and claims regulation have to be met. GMP for licensing category is as per Schedule 4, Part 2. It was Part 1 for the registration category. It is Part 2 for the licensing category, which when you look at it is more detailed. It has requirements like training your people. It has requirements like doing an internal audit for your own facility. It has requirements like having SOPs in place to ensure that your operations are in control. So the Schedule 4 Part 2 has about 12 sections which are more detailed in terms of ensuring good manufacturing practices. That would be applicable and you would need to comply with that. In addition, there is a 6-monthly, a biannual requirement to test product as well as the water that is used. So product for standard product would be tested as per FSSAI specifications, which, as I said, you can find in the FSS food product standards. It has also been excellently reproduced in Niftem Tanjavor's Handbook of Jaggery Production. And water as per 10500. When you get these tests done, please ensure that they are done through a laboratory which is notified by FSSAI. If you go to FSSAI's website and you search, they have a search tab, you search for laboratories. it will give you a list of, I think, about 130 labs now, which have been notified by the authority. And each laboratory has different scope of testing which is approved. So please check that the lab that you are testing your product, sending your product for testing, has the scope to test for both water and Jaggery based products. Many a time they may not have the scope in its entirety, especially the smaller labs are approved for very limited scope. And if you just see that the name of the lab is in the list and you get it tested, and the scope for the test is not approved by FSSAI, then you as a food business would be non-compliant, because the authority will consider that that test report is not valid. So please do that little bit of due diligence. There's an excellent Excel sheet that is there on the FSSAI website. Look for the lab that you are interested in sending it to. Right next to it, the entire scope for the testing has been written in that document itself. So check that it has scope for all the tests. If you're doing microbial tests, if you're doing chemical tests, if you're doing nutrition analysis tests, please ensure that the laboratory you are using has the scope and is notified by FSSAI. How does one get the 6 monthly test done? The authority has aligned it with the financial year. So April to September and October to March. You need to get one test done between April to September and the other test between October to March, with a minimum gap of 3 months between two tests. So you cannot choose to have a test done in September and immediately October. If your last test was in September, then your next test would be in January. This is an advisory from the authority, and our testing frequency for both water as well as product testing through a notified laboratory should be as per this schedule. We should build our schedule as per. The other compliances include, of course, an annual medical checkup for all food handlers. The authority has also defined a food handler as someone who has access to touch food, whether packed or unpacked. So anybody who has the access to handle packed or unpacked food is to be considered a food handler, and we need to get their medical checkup done once in a year. And what do we include in a medical checkup? There is a format again in the registration and licensing regulation. You would check for skin test, any skin diseases. You would check for the eye test, and you would get a vaccination done for enteric diseases. The authority doesn't ask that we do any sugar, BP, or other tests. These, if they are being done, are more from an employee benefit. From a food safety benefit, their ability to see the product right, an eye test, skin diseases check in case they have skin diseases that can pass on to the product, and foodborne diseases, which is enteric diseases vaccine. So which vaccine to take? Should you take for hepatitis? Should you take for typhoid? That advice is to be taken from the local medical health authority. So whichever region you are in your district, in your city, in your town, the local medical health authority will advise that there is a risk to this disease, this enteric disease, and that vaccine, depending on the frequency. So there are vaccines which have a 10-year coverage. There are vaccines which have a 1-year coverage. There are vaccines which have a 4-year coverage. Depending on the validity or the efficiency of the vaccine that has been administered, the revaccination needs to be done. There is no requirement that you should vaccinate people every year. That is not the requirement of the authority. the medical check has to be done and the doctor has to advise if there is a need for a vaccine and which vaccine is needed. Right? Now, formats for these are available within the licensing and registration regulation. You can refer to that and maintain records as per that requirement. The other condition of license that a licensed FBO needs to meet is to have an FSMS plan. I don't know if all of you are familiar with something called Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, HACCP. It's a very simple system which was developed when man first wanted to go into space. When NASA in America wanted to send people into space, then they, along with the scientists of General Mills, got together and developed a system called Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. It's a simple system which just talks about how we can manage likely hazards in our process. The Act and the regulation require that every licensed FBO must have FSMS implemented. And Food Safety Management System, or FSMS, as per our Act, FSS Act, has been defined as implementing HACCP along with Schedule 4 requirements, which is GMP. So HACCP plus Schedule 4 is FSMS, and having a documented FSMS plan is a mandatory requirement of license holders. Here again, I would like to call out, if some of you have been licensed for a couple of years now, the authority used to earlier allow, in case you do not have an FSMS plan, they had an affidavit which one would sign and say that while I don't currently have an FSMS plan, I will implement it at the earliest. And basis that affidavit and basis that declaration by the FBO, the license was granted. Many a times, if your licenses have been issued through consultants, you may not be aware that you have made such a declaration to the authority. If your facility is visited by a food safety officer for an inspection, it would be expected that you have that FSMS plan. Please do develop your own FSMS plan. In order to aid small businesses, the authority FSSAI on their website, if you just Google FSMS plan, FSSAI guidance document, you will see a number of documents which have been developed by the authority. They've done the entire HACCP, which can be used as a template for small businesses to implement FSMS. So they have records that can be used for personal hygiene. They have records that can be used for maintenance. They have records that can be used for sanitation and cleaning of equipment. All of these standard templates have been developed by FSSAI. They are available free for download on FSSAI's website. The hazard analysis and critical control points have been identified. It is not available specific to Jaggery. It has been developed. I think the closest business is confectionery. So looking at that, you should be able to develop your own FSMS plan. Having said that, if you are a license holder, please ensure that you have a documented FSMS plan available with you for your facility, which is signed by your technical person in charge of operations. Okay, that is a mandatory requirement. Now, without that, license renewal is not being done. But before you go for a renewal, if an inspection happens, this is likely to be one of the documents that the food safety officer will want to see. Again, I would reiterate that the compliance requirements are not different for state and central license.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes?
Ma'am, actually your slides are not moving.
I haven't moved any slide. I have just 4 slides. I'm going to just use them and make the...
Sure. Continue, ma'am. Sorry
Sure.
for the interruption.
No, not at all. See, as the reason for having such small slides is there's nothing that I'm saying which is not on the website. I didn't see a point in detailing out all of this. If the participants are interested, I can send you individual slide presentations on all of these topics, and they can go through it at their leisure. Okay, now coming back to what I was saying, the license, whether a state license or a central license, does not have any difference in your compliance responsibilities. You have the same compliance requirements for state license as you have for central license. Only what differs is who is issuing the license to you and who is coming to your facility to enforce the regulations. Am I audible? I just saw a message saying that no voice.
Ma'am, you are audible.
All right, great. Thank you for that. The only difference is in who is administering the issue of the license and who is coming to enforce the license. In the case of state license holders, it is the State Food and Drug Administration or the Food Safety Commissionerate. And in case of central licenses, it is the regional office of FSSAI. That's the only difference. Otherwise, all compliance requirements remain the same. Okay? So 6 monthly product and water testing, annual medical checkup, including vaccine as needed, having a documented FSMS plan, having a documented product recall plan. Again, if you go to the regulation section of FSSAI, there is a sample or a model product recall plan. The businesses can simply download that and develop their plan as per the guidance or the sample plan that has been given by the authority. The requirement is essentially that you are able to trace your product to the consumer if there is a need for recall. If you identify that your product has any chemical contaminant or any biological contaminant and you want to pull back, you want to recall the product, in that case, your traceability system must be well established. And to do that, again, a sample plan has been provided by the authority. It is part of the regulation section itself under the FSS product recall regulation. So please have a look at it. I will again reiterate, both of these are mandatory documented requirements for all manufacturing facilities. Please, whether state or central license holders, please ensure that you do have them. FSSAI has moved over the last 6-7 months from being having a focus on merely capability development, which was what it did for the first 10-12 years of its operation, because everybody from their own officers to the state officers to the FPOs to the laboratories were learning. But now there has been a clear shift in beginning enforcement as well. So we are seeing, even if you're looking at papers, you will see, this hotel was closed, or there was enforcement activity, there was a trans fat survey that was conducted, because the authority now feels that after 10 years of capability development, everybody is mature enough and enforcement can start. So please ensure that these minimum compliances, these mandatory compliances are in place. The next compliance is having adequate number of FOSTAC certified personnel. FOSTAC is a program that is conducted by FSSAI through its authorized training partners and which trains food safety supervisors. It certifies people working in the food industry as food safety supervisor or FSS. It's an 8-hour program and the certification for this comes, the training content, the approval of trainers and the certification comes directly through FSSAI through its FOSTAC portal. The compliance requirement is that for every 25 food handlers, you should have at least one FSS certified through FOSTAC, which means 1 to 25 employees if you have, food handlers if you have, you need one FOSTAC certified person. Above that, for every additional 25, you need to add one more. Okay, so adequate number of FOSTAC certified FSS need to be available in your facility. The new system for FOSCOS also captures how many employees you have and what are the certificate numbers of the FOSTAC certified personnel amongst these employees. So it maps and it throws out an alert to the authority in case you have insufficient number of FOSTAC certified personnel. So FOSTAC certification, again, if you need to know more, I'm happy to talk about it later on. Other compliance requirements is to have a technical person in charge of operations, at least a graduate in science, who must be nominated as the technical person in charge of operations. The filing of annual returns, which is essentially your roster of the production that has happened day wise through the entire year, needs to be submitted to the authority. Mr. Rajshekharappa, if you're trying to ask something, please use the chat box. We cannot grant you permission to annotate right now. Thank you. So these are the mandatory compliances which every license holder needs to comply with. Getting a registration certificate or getting a license is the first step in your journey to being a compliant food business operator. It's like getting your Aadhaar card. Beyond that, on an annual basis, there are all of these compliances that we must be meeting with and which we must demonstrate to the authority when they come for inspection that we are complying with. The authority has also now started to move towards a system of perpetual licensing. Many of you who have state licenses probably have 1 or 2 year duration of licenses. Central licenses are many a time granted up to a maximum of 5 years. Very rare occasions, 7 years. So beyond that, when you want to renew your license, there is a procedure for renewing the license. Your application needs to go in at least 1 month before your license expiry date. If your license is not granted by the time your earlier license expires, then your license number changes. A new license will need to be granted. If license number changes, it means a change in all of your packaging material. To reduce this activity, FSSAI has taken a decision to move towards something called a perpetual license. So again, like your Aadhaar card, once it is issued, it will not have a validity. Not like your driving license, there will not be a validity. It will be perpetually valid unless it is cancelled by the authority. And all of these compliances are now captured and checked through the FOSCOS portal. So the authority gets an alert if you are not compliant on any of these activities. Okay. Registration process, very simple. Typically, if the documentary requirements here are a proof of ownership, proof of identity proof, and affidavit that you will comply with GMP requirements. And if you have any equipment, etc., then fire NOC, etc., may be called for. Licensing, on the other hand, is a little more elaborate process. Your proof of ownership needs to have memorandum of articles. It needs to have other documents such as your listed equipment, the capacities, layout of your operation, your raw material specifications, in the sense what is your recipe, evidence that your recipe or your ingredients are all compliant with FSSAI, water test reports, product test reports, FSMS plan, recall plan, all of these need to be uploaded. The period of which is allowed is 2 months for the application of the license to be issued. If for a period of 30 days after applying for a registration, there is no revert from the authority, the license is automatically granted. The registration certificate, is automatically granted after 30 days, and you can download the registration. In case of licensing, that period is 60 days. If it is not, if there is no revert from the authority, no request for additional information, then the license is auto-generated through the FOSPOS portal. Once the license is granted, there is, of course, regular surveillance activities, enforcement activities that happen, in which case improvement notices can be raised, non-compliance reports can be sent, and if the authority feels that there is not sufficient improvement, then the licenses can be suspended or cancelled. Now, when we were looking at this slide a little earlier, in the central license category, I spoke about proprietary food manufacturers. Any food business which is manufacturing a non-standard product, which means a product for which quality specifications have not been defined by the authority in the food product standards and additive standard, such manufacturers mandatorily need to go for a central license, no matter how large or small they are in terms of their capacity or in terms of their turnover. Now, looking at Jaggery and looking at the kind of products that you have, the plain Jaggery products, whether it is Jaggery as in cubes, in blocks, in powder or liquid Jaggery, and cane Jaggery, has standardized specifications in the regulation. So if you are manufacturing only these, then your product falls under a standard food. And depending on your eligibility, you could be eligible for a registration or state license as well. But if you are manufacturing amongst your mix of products, any value-added product, where you are adding other natural ingredients even to the Jaggery, pepper, turmeric. We saw an example in the morning where amla was added. Any admixture of other products into your Jaggery, where your product still remains Jaggery, such products are not defined. Quality specifications for them are not defined in the regulation, and these will fall under proprietary food. If you are manufacturer of any proprietary food, you will be eligible for a central license when you do your application through FOSPOS. There is an effort that is ongoing. The authority is looking at allowing this in the definition of Jaggery, where admixture of certain natural ingredients may be permitted. But till the time that standard is issued and till the time that standard regulation is gazetted, these continue to fall under the proprietary food category. And for proprietary food, please note that your license eligibility is that of a central license. Again, your compliance requirements do not change. Your compliance requirements, whether state license or a central license, are identical, but your eligibility changes. You come under the central license category. All right. Now the last slide that I had, last two slides that I have, is on the food safety and the risk. Now, risk management, when we spoke about FSMS, we said that an FSMS plan needs to be documented based on HACCP. I just want to spend a few minutes talking about what is expected out of that to give everyone an idea of the document requirements on how to make that document. Now, the concept of risk management is not something which is new to any of us. Okay, see, very, very simple risk managed. What was the risk? The person felt that he may be splashed with water. What did he do? All he did was he picked up a stone and the risk was managed. Yeah. So the concept of risk management, which is fundamental to FSMS, is very inherent to all of us in our daily life. We do it when we are purchasing a house. We do it when we are setting out to do anything good, including ensuring that we don't do it in Rahukal, ensuring that we look for auspicious times. We do it when we choose coaching classes for our children. It's something very inherent to us. But from a food safety risk management perspective, it is important to note that it is required by regulation. It is not optional, it is not nice to have. It is essential for consumer safety and therefore it is required by regulation. The hazard analysis and critical control points is a 7-step process which is useful for us to manage our risk better. HACCP is a codex document. Again, codex documents, codex, which is an United Nations FAO WHO joint body, has a lot of documents, standards, which are available for free download. You can refer to a lot of good practices from codex on things like how to do your sampling, how to manage personal hygiene, what should be good transportation, SOPs. A lot of information available on the HACCP and Codex on the Codex website, including the HACCP information. Now, the core of HACCP is to manage our hazards. And hazards are typically split into 3 categories. Physical hazards, which can cause injury to the consumer, such as a piece of metal or a piece of glass if it comes into the product. Chemical hazards, which can cause, I'll just populate this. Chemical hazards which cause long-term illness, presence of heavy metals, presence of unapproved additives, residual cleaning agents, residual lubricants. Any chemical which we ingest may not give us an immediate reaction. Excuse me. If I eat a piece of jaggery which has a piece of glass in it, I would immediately know that I'm injured. If I eat a piece of jaggery which has a microorganism on it which causes an infection, whether it is a fungus or a bacteria like salmonella, over a period of 4 hours to 12 hours to 4 days, I'll realize that I have a stomach infection. But chemical hazards are far more silent. Chemical hazards have a cumulative effect. They lead to lifestyle illnesses, as they are called, the non-communicable diseases. They increase your likelihood of getting diabetes, blood pressure, maybe cancers. And the management of these 3 hazards, physical, chemical, and biological hazards, is what is HACCP. So what you essentially do in HACCP is you list out your entire flowchart. We saw some lovely flowcharts which were presented for both solid jaggery as well as liquid jaggery in the morning. You pick up that flowchart and you say at each stage of these, if I am crushing my cane, what are the likely physical, chemical, biological hazards that can enter? If I'm boiling my syrup, if I'm clarifying my syrup, if I'm packaging my product, at each stage, what are the likely physical, chemical, biological hazards that can enter? And you develop a system to control these. Now, how do you develop a system to control these? Your risk can be controlled using this 5-point star. First of all, ensure that you have the correct knowledge. What do you mean by correct knowledge? You should know what are the regulatory specifications that FSSAI calls for from a quality perspective, from a safety perspective. There are a number of BIS standards that are available, which talk about the process requirements for jaggery making. Use those to put in place standard operating procedures. Sessions such as today, where you had fantastic technical input on how to improve your processes. So, having the correct knowledge is one excellent hazard control mechanism. It allows you to apply your information in a manner that you are able to control your physical, chemical, and biological hazards. Second is your process control. Anything that you need to improve, you can only improve if you are able to measure it. If your process is stable, that is when you can measure the process, you can improve the process. So have your process metrics. Jaggery being largely, I'm told, 75% of Jaggery is from the unorganized sector. There may not be too much focus on standardizing your process. Ensure that your times of processing, how long are you crushing, what are your temperatures of boiling, what is the duration of boiling, what is the clarifying agent you are adding at what percentage. The more you standardize your process, the better is your control to prevent hazards from coming it, be it physical, chemical, or biological, and more so chemical. We see a lot of industrial grade chemicals being used for bleaching. So sulfur is allowed as per FSSAI, but it needs to be food grade. Sodium bicarbonate is allowed by FSSAI, but it needs to be food grade. If we use industrial grade chemicals, they come with a lot of other cross contaminants, and these contaminants will carry over into your product, failing your product when analyzed as per FSSAI's requirements and causing harm to your consumer. Managing chemical hazards is an ethical moral responsibility for the food business, because your consumer will never come to know. If he takes your Jaggery and eats it, he's not going to say, oh, this has 2.8 ppm of lead against 2.5. There is no way they will come to know unless there is a very gross contamination with a high odor product like a pesticide. Okay? So it is our responsibility to ensure that we manage our chemical hazards well, and that is only possible through strong process control. If you have a physical hazard in your product, if you have a metal, you can filter it. If you have a biological hazard, if you have an organism, you can heat it, you can irradiate it, you can treat it with microwave radiation, and you can remove the microorganism. But there is nothing that you can do, or very little that you can do, to remove chemical hazards. So chemical hazard management depends on strong process control and the use of the correct raw material, your correct resources. Ensure that the raw material that you are using is of a food grade quality. FSSAI conditions of license and registration require you to purchase raw material only from those vendors who have an FSSAI license or registration. So if you are purchasing industry grade chemicals and your vendor does not have an FSSAI license, then you are non-compliant and not meeting the condition of license. So please ensure that you have the correct resources and the optimum process based on good knowledge that you gather from the various sources that are available. Infrastructure, you had a lot of inputs on the various kinds of equipment that are available that can help optimize your yields, that can reduce your hazards in the morning. So I will not go into more detail on that. But again, lot of data put together by NIFTEM in their handbook. I could see a list of vendors. Please make use of that. And the heart of all of this is the people who are working. Food safety depends not just on the brick and mortar requirements, but on the people who are handling it. And that's where I think traditional processes have an advantage, because there's a lot of age old knowledge that people carry from generation to generation. Please optimize on that knowledge, invest in the people in improving their capabilities, competencies, cross learning, so that you are able to manage your hazards very well. Okay? So, with that, I will close. I think I'm slightly over my 20 minutes. Apologies for that. I'm open to taking any questions that you may have. I would just like to say that I will share my presentation, of course, with the organizers. And any additional information you need, please let me know. I'm happy to share that too.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. It was really informative, and I hope all the people they will benefit from this session. Participants, here we are now moving ahead with our next technical talk. For that, may now invite Mrs. Bhanupriya Munta, Associate Manager R&D, Shalina Laboratories, Private Limited, Pavanan. We welcome you, ma'am. Ma'am will provide us insights on the packaging and machinery for the Jaggery processing. Ma'am, the session is over to you.
Welcome everyone, and special thanks to the doctors and all, Ms. Subhaprabha, who has briefed us about the processing, about the FSSAI requirements and rules and regulations. And we should not forget, though we have made a product, we have to ultimately pack and sell to the customer. So basically, I would be briefing up you people or taking to the journey of basically what is packaging for. Then packaging and its classification, forms of Jaggery, evaluation of Jaggery packaging, types of packaging and packaging materials used for it. Then a brief about packaging machineries used for it, slide label requirements, and why this packaging matters to us. Since we have less time, I will just go through the highlights, because packaging itself is a very big and a vast subject. Each individual topic is very big, but any questions are welcome, so that at least whatever I am covering today will be clear to you. See, basically, what is packaging for? We can always remember packaging with P. P's of these things. That is, P is for protection, preservation, promotion, positioning, providing, presentation, and formation. Now, why is this important? See, whenever we are making any product, it is like we have to protect that product so that whatever our intention is, we. Yeah, please.
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am. Can you please speak a little bit louder or keep your mouth near to your face?
Yeah, sure. Just a second. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Little clear.
Okay, fine. Basically, why we are talking about packaging is whatever we have produced, we are producing with an intention so that it is being sold to the customer. It is going to a customer, he is purchasing the product in a very sound condition. Okay, so it is very important so that whatever we are manufacturing is being dispatched in a protection condition. Then whatever product we are making, we have a best before or a shelf life for a product. So whatever we are making, it should be in a preserved condition till the shelf life of the product. Then promotion. Promotion is very important because nowadays there are many competitors in the market. So we should have a proper promotion so that our product stands out from other things. And positioning. As we said, we have many products day in, day out. So it should be very easy, or we should have a loyal, what we say is loyalty. When once, whatever, whenever the customer has been purchasing from us, he should again come to us. So this is one of the things, that positioning, it should be right position in the market. Providing whatever packing materials we are providing, or whatever product we are packing in which packing material, it should be very convenient, or it should be user friendly to the customer, so that he should be okay, he should be happy, okay, that whatever product I have been purchased, the packing is also good, it is user friendly, I'm not hurting or easy opening, all those things. And presentation basically comes with the marketing part of it, how attractive it is, since packaging is also called a silent salesman. If I agree, if people agree with me, many of we go to the retail markets, many of we go to the shopping malls. So we always get attracted to the package, what is there. though it is the same kind of product. Biscuits, for example, biscuits, or for example, Jaggery. We have so many brands, we have so many customers. So we always try to see which package is the best, what attracts us more. Then comes to the company and then comes to the quality. But whatever comes first is the presentation of it. And performing, as I said, the packing material should be so good that it is being user friendly to the customer. Nothing interrupts. It is easy opening, or it should not cut, or all those things. Then comes its packaging and its classifications. See, whenever we hear of packaging, we only see the primary pack or the pack which is being all kept on the shelf, but it is not so. Packaging is a wide subject that whenever we see, it is not only the product which comes, only the packing material which comes. It has a complete supply chain system which goes into it. So we will just see the classification, how it goes. These are the main category classifications which are used in industry. Basically, it's called as primary, secondary, intermediate packaging, and tertiary packaging. So whatever first comes in contact with the product is always called as a primary packing material. In case of Jaggery, if we take an example of Jaggery, if we take a solid cake of Jaggery, then it is the plastic cover or plastic tray which comes in contact with the Jaggery, that is called as primary packing material. Now, definitely, this primary packing material cannot be transferred or shifted directly to the retailer. It has to be packed at a secondary pack. Secondary pack, basically, if we take an example of a toffee, Jaggery toffee. So what we can say is primary packaging is the wrapper, but I cannot sell the individual topics, or I cannot transport the individual topics. So I have to take a secondary packaging in which, for example, 50 packets of that topics are packed in that carton. It is basically called as a carton. Usually it is carton, solid tray, or a polybags. This is called as secondary packing. And then intermediate packing is where the retailers distribute itself. Suppose this 50 polybags or 50 cartons is packed in a two intermediate packaging. And lastly, it is tertiary. Tertiary is the final pack in which the transportation happens. So basically, the tertiary packs are called as the shipper. So anywhere, any form of packaging if we use, we will always find these primary, secondary, intermediate, and tertiary packaging. Now, what is the use of it? Because it has been used, it has been now these are very easy to store, and there is a lot of technology which is being involved in this packaging. There are a lot of calculations, a lot of machineries, and the systems are used so that whatever you are manufacturing, that are being traced from where it is, or from where it is manufactured, how it is manufactured. So many technologies have been also emerged. Ultimately, tertiary packing should be in such a good level of packaging
Yes.
that whatever primary, yeah, please.
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am. Are you sharing some PPT or something?
Yeah, I am sharing a PPT. You can't see it.
No, ma'am. Slides are not visible.
Just a second. I'll just try once again. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Can you please make it slide?
Yeah. Okay, is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Now visible. Please continue.
Okay, I'm so sorry. This was basically, if you see, I'll just repeat up so that the connection is there. Primary packing is packed in a secondary packing. If we see this content, then secondary packing goes into an intermediate packing, and intermediate packing goes into a tertiary packing. And basically, whatever tertiary packing or primary packing we are choosing, it should be always like the whatever product we are selling, or whatever product we are distribution, it is being reached to a sound condition to the customer. So ultimately, it is like, okay, whatever, as I said, the product, whatever comes in contact is primary, then intermediate, secondary, intermediate, and lastly tertiary. Now, if we come to the forms of Jaggery, why we are more interested in the forms of Jaggery is basically solid, powder, and ink. So, whatever product packing material we are selecting, we have to consider the physical properties of that product, what form of the product is, and what is sensitivity to the product. So basically, in Jaggery, majority we will find is for the solid cakes or the powders, it will be moisture sensitive and the shape sensitive. Because whatever, if we are making a shape, we are making a cake of it, then it should be in that condition only. The next is, if we see how the Jaggery packaging was evaluated. Just to have a background. Initially, if the Jaggery was being made, that we was locally years and years back. It was like leaf or the natural materials were used to pack it. Now, slowly, people have developed to it, and they have been taken the cane one or the normal dried leaf packaging. Then people have adapted to paper packagings. Paper packaging is basically in a raw form, it was like newspapers were used, but some people had come with the new advanced technology. They had to taken the specialized papers and all. And recently, if we see in the market, these jaggeries are packed in the tray packs. That is this one, the tray packs, or directly into the plastic. So, depending upon the product which we are selecting, we have to select the packing material for it. Then if we see, these are some of the examples. The first example, this is called as a stretch packaging. This is also from the polymer, plastic polymer. This is shrink. If we see, this is the PET bottle, and this in this PET bottle, basically it's a jar of a wide mouth, and in this the cubes are being packed. Then if we see, then we have other packaging, that is the laminate or a pouch packaging. Then recently, for the powder jaggery, many people are using the reusable pouches, that is Ziploc pouches, so that they don't have to convert it to the other container, and they directly can use in that container. Then other packing material is PET jar, paper Ziploc pouches are also there. And as I have shown earlier, a tray packing, this is also one of the tray or a plastic container packing. Then jars again, glass jars are also there apart from PET jars. And then we have for liquid honey. For liquid jaggery, we have glass bottles, which is in the shape of bottle shape, and paper ones. So depend how now the most important thing is types of packaging is how or what we should select. So basically the type of packaging goes by the shape of the product. What is the form of the product? What is the size of the product? There are many different packing materials available in the industry, but whatever shelf life we are having, it is like the whatever we are selecting, it should reach to the customer in a sound condition. Plus, it should suffice the shelf life. It is not only aesthetics which we should concentrate to be in the market, but also onto the stability or the shelf life of the product. So if it is a heavy packing materials, then basically somebody has asked if the raw material, for example, we are just converting the small jaggery, we are repacking the jaggery. How the raw material will come? It would be in a large thing. It should not come into a small box. So what they can do is they can use a heavy containers or a wooden packs for those to ship for the converting or repacking into the smaller packs. Then the medium packaging materials, we have carton boxes or woolen boxes or canes. The light packaging, that is what we are day out using, which is being sold to the retailers, is the light packaging, which is its flexible packaging, that is pouches, bottles, paper containers, and all those things. And there are different methods where we can pack the product. One is vacuum packaging, is there shrink packaging, is there strip packaging. We will just go have a brief further how the machines and all will help us. Then what is the contents? This is more basic important. What content we are going to pack, whether it is liquid, whether it is solid, or whether it is the powder form. Depending upon that also we can select. And what is the material? Basically, there are three types of packing materials classified. That is rigid, semi-rigid, and flexible. If we see rigid, in rigid we have majority coming as the bottle, metal cans, wooden boxes, and all those things. Plastic bottles, just like I have showed the PET bottle, it is also the rigid pack. Then semi-rigid, we can call it as paper or a plastic bottles. Then flexible is completely the pouches, the shrink films, or the stretch wraps, which are there. Those are called as flexible pouches. So this is very important for whatever we are packing. We need to understand first what the product is, what it is physical characteristics, and what is not the last but not least is how it has to be projected at the end user, how he is going to or how she is going to use the product. And then if we see for solids, we have shrink packing. Majority in the demands and all, we see the big half kg or a 1 kg jaggery that is being packed in the shrink pack or a stretch pack. Then now some of the packaging are like polyfilms are also there which are being directly wrapped. And in addition to this, if we go to the supine, this is a very basic packaging of that jaggery. But if we want to go on a higher side, then what we can do is we can just pack the jaggery in the polybag and again use it in a tray pack or a container. So this is one of the aesthetic. We whenever we are adding any packing materials or we are going up to the standards, which is not required as per the shelf life, but for the marketing point of view, then it is always to an upper side of it. Then nowadays, many people are going for a laminated pouches, as I said. Laminated pouches are there, Ziploc pouches, reusable. People really like whatever they don't want to shift into the container or they like the pack, they will go for a Ziploc packaging. And PET containers with the screw jars. Many Indian mentality or a household mentality is they like to reuse the containers. People don't throw the containers in rigid containers. So they will again come back. If the quality of the container is good, they will again come back for the packing also. Though the product is good, but they will again come back for the packing material. Okay, that this jar or this container is good. I will like to go for that. The same way, powders is there. That is polybags, then laminated pouches, paper pouches, tray packing. The concept of the packing material lies the same because the family is same. The stability, basically, whatever is convenient in the stability, basically that is only extended. But only thing is how we are presenting it. Since for the if we take an example of a solid can be go in a pouch. But if we take for a powder people take for the daily use. As it is said that the 20 gram of a jaggery daily is recommended. So those people will go for a reusable pouches. And if it is a liquid, then liquid will go for a glass containers. Basically glass containers with the flip top caps, which has been very easy to pour and children actually people can promote it like they can use it as like a jam or something on a chapati or a plate. So packaging really plays an important role that it can also change the way of promoting the product. It is not only taking the jaggery of liquid jaggery in a spoon or something, but people can have an idea of and promote it as like they will directly use it on the product which you want to eat. So easy dispensing or easy way out to use it so that it is not messy. So this is one of the important criteria. And then majority the packing machines are similar, but still to say one of for the cakes, basically shrink packaging machines are majority used. That is, since the cake is a very solid and it's in the shape, a proper shape. So basically, it's only PVC or a shrink material which has been wrapped around. It has been passed through a heating tunnel. So that can be whatever the packaging material is there, that will take a shape of your product. So in this, it is very attractive that many people can play with the different solid types of cakes. They can have nowadays what we see is a glass shape of a jaggery or a solid cube shape of a jaggery or a rectangular jaggery. But people will also like if it goes for a sugar candies like. So that is also possible for this, and it is just an easy shrink wrapping pattern on it. Then the below machine is induction sink machine. This is a tray. And after placing on a tray, just to have a tamper evidence, we can have a seal on the cap. This is the induction sealing cap. Then this is one of the machine which is automatic machines. Basically, the previous slides which I have shown, this is the semi-automatic cutting. That is like we have to place the product inside a plastic material and then we have to pass through the machine. But if we see the next machine, which is tube packing machine, this is a completely automatic machine. Just you have to fill the product inside the hopper. It will travel the product through the conveyor, place it on, and according to the weight of it, the product will be filled in the pouches and it will be sealed accordingly. Then this is one of the tray packing thing. In this tray packing, the liquid jaggery is being fallen and then it solidifies through the travel and then again it is being sealed. So this is also automatic line. And this is one of the interesting thing for the small dosages, that is form fill seal machine. This can be used for powders as well as for the liquid jaggery packing. So this is one of the important or easy machine, form fill seal machine. Then we have semi-automatic pouch filling machine. This is majorly used for liquids and the powders for the small scale industry. This has a 2 units. This is basically for the raw material. It would be in this machine. The product will be filled in the pouch, and this is a sealer. To the after that, when it is being the pouch has been placed in the sealer, it will be sealed out. So this was the thing. And as Dr. The previous speaker, Mr. Subha, has told, there are labeling requirements is very important part of it. Though we are packing it, but whatever we pack, whatever is visible is being sold. So these is one of the example as a very vast subject. I was just going through it. Basically, it should be like whatever company is there. You can see the company logo, whatever brand name you are selling. Brand name is also very important. It should be very visible. It should be very separate to other competitors, so that whenever a customer goes, he should or she should remember that this is the brand which I should get. Then barcode is one of the important thing. This will actually allow you to go it into the retail markets and all. Now, then, as per regulations, the nutritional values, whatever food products you are giving, nutritional values is most of the important thing to be kept, and it is also one of the advantageous thing to get. Then, ingredients is thing. Ingredients is most important. Then, marketing lines. What makes it the product different from the other products? And as said, veg logo. Just a second. Veg and non-veg logo is also there. Yeah, veg logo is very important, so that because nowadays people are very conscious about their health, so people will look about okay whether my product, how to safe my product is. Then is like net weight, uh, what grammage or what is the content of my product, MRP, but obvious batch number, packed on, and this one manufacturing details, best before, storage conditions, and FSSAI details as given. Just a second. Then why packing is important? This is the last product. Just a second. उधर ही है. Then brand loyalty. Why packing materials are important? Because whenever a packing material is there, the customer is very brand loyal. Once the customer has a good impression that yes, this product is very good for me, in the place of quality, the product quality, the packing materials, people will definitely, however, any brand has been available in the market, they will come to take that brand only. And brand differentiation. For example, if we have an example of Bisleri, how many people ask for a mineral water? They will always say Bisleri. Though Bisleri is in green color, though the the shopkeeper will give any other product, but still, since seeing the green color, people tend to believe that this is Bisleri. You see 90% of the mineral water, you will say in green color, which is in Bisleri. So this is very important, the brand differentiation. Marketing, yes, as I said, we have many competitors in the market, so we should have that our product should be standing different in the market. So marketing is also we need to project or we need to promote that our product is different from other products. Then brand recognition. Once the customer registers, he will definitely recognize, and mouth to mouth publicity is more important. And value creation. Whenever you have, suppose you have created a value for one Jaggery, then you can at least go to the standards and all. But these all depends upon how we are promoting our product or how we are placing the product. So basically, this was for the packaging point of view. I had not gone in the details, but any questions can be addressed now, or yes, you can just directly come to me because it's a very vast subject, and in 20 minutes it's very difficult to cover majority of things. But yes, I've tried to cover the majority things which needs to be kept in mind whenever we are packing, designing, or launching any new product. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The session was very informative. May I now invite Dr. R. Mahindran, sir, for the concluding remarks, please.
Dear participants and eminent speakers, thank you so much for participating in this ODOP webinar on Jaggery processing and value addition. On this occasion, I would like to thank all the eminent speakers like Professor Dr. Vishal, Dr. Dilip Kumar, Dr. Ravindra Naik, Dr. K.V. Kesavaya, and also Ms. Subhaprada, Mrs. Banapriya, and also our own colleagues, Dr. V.R. Sinija and Ms. Tonisha Dixit for their technical session. And also, I would like to thank all the participants since morning who are participating in this webinar on Jaggery processing and value addition. I hope this would be beneficial to all of you. And also, whoever in this 9 states with 18 districts who adopted the Jaggery as ODOP, please do apply under this scheme for the subsidy under the PMFME scheme. I hope you would also come back for our next ODOP webinar in the coming weeks. Thank you so much for your participation. Jai Hind.